All right, so it should actually work now. I had to mess around with a lot of the settings, but the you should actually have good sound fidelity now. So hopefully it works. So basically, I'm just going to go over everything that people just want to go over. So that can be pretty much anything, honestly. Just whatever you think could be useful to you on the test. Yeah, but you should be able to hear me now. So as soon as anybody has any questions, I can just start answering them. But you should be able to hear me now. So as soon as anybody has any questions, I can just start answering them. But you should be able to hear me now. So as soon as anybody has any questions. So if you're listening, there might have just been an echo there, but now we should be good to go. There was a problem with like a plugin I was using that was a noise filter, except it thought that when I was talking it was noise, which in an abstract sense that might be true, but it really wasn't exactly helping me do anything. So I think I'll just leave this up for a few minutes. I'll just get some water or something, and I'll just wait for people to come back. So I'll be back in a second. So I don't mind just getting started anyway. So anybody that's here, it looks like it's probably just Haley and maybe uh, an esteemed alum of mine. Do you have any questions? Give us a. What would you like a quick tour of, Ryan? Oh, do you mean a tour of my house? Uh, well, I mean, yeah, this is pretty creepy. I don't know how I feel about this. This is my desktop setup. That's a window. Those are my 2 plants. I'm hoping to get some more. I've taken up painting recently, and that's a recent painting I finished. I kind of like that one. That's my board of things that I like. And I also have LED lights around, so my house is lit up by LED lights. Right now they're not too bright, but they're a bit more interesting. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, that was weird. I'm not sure why I did that. Anyway. I gotta do other things, MTV Crib, so I'm out of here. So I'm gonna do some computer science review. Anyway, so let's go over some of the kinds of things that you'll probably see on the AP. I think I'll just start with recursion because people tend to hate recursion, and I think that's a really important thing to go over. Oh, that's fine. I'll play some. I might play some Overwatch later, but I want to make sure that everybody's got their questions answered for the test tomorrow, as I believe that is probably a priority. Did I actually just cut out again? Yeah, I mean, the format of the test is just going to be 15 multiple choice questions, and like 2 free response questions. So it's really just one AP free response question, so it's an actual question from an AP, from a previous year's AP, except they're going to be 2 parts of that question, essentially. The 15 multiple choice questions are going to be all sorts of things. Like, it's pretty much unpredictable. It's just a broad array of things. But the one thing I am going to tell you is that there are 2 recursion questions, which is why I'm going to make it a priority just to go over recursion right now. So let me... can I show you a problem exactly like the AP questions? I mean, all the AP free response questions are actually available online. Like, you can always look for them. What I can tell you is that, yeah, I can show you one. I'll do that. But let me do some recursion questions now. So let's say you have... That's cool. I had a file called recursion practice over here, so I'm just going to steal from that. So let's say you have mystery int n, and a reasonable question to ask on the test, or a reasonable question to expect, would be something like, what is mystery 4? So basically what it's saying is you're going to make a recursive call to mystery, and you're going to be passing 4 as an argument. So in that case, it's just going to be mystery 4 is equal to, and then you have to look at, throw my phone over there. So then you have to look at what mystery 4 decomposes into, because the weird thing about recursion is that recursive problems will actually decompose into other recursive problems generally, unless you hit the base case. So the first thing we look at is that right now n is equal to 4. So since n is not equal to 0, we're not going to return 1. We're going to go to the else statement, which says return 3 times mystery m minus 1, which is 3. And then, so now we still have the 3 times from before, but now we have to figure out what mystery 3 is. So mystery 3, since 3 is not equal to 0, we're going to go to the else statement, so it's going to be 3 times mystery 3 minus 1, which is 2. And then mystery 2 is going to turn into 3 times mystery 1. Mystery 1 is going to turn into 3 times mystery 0. And now we get to the interesting part, because mystery 0 is our base case. So we're just going to return 1 there. So we get 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 1, which is equal to 81. And these are all going to be multiple choice questions. You'll never have to freehand any sort of these, but this is just the way I think it makes the most sense to do recursive problems. So I just do it like this. These are all going to be multiple choice questions. So does anybody have any questions about how recursion works? Like pretty much every recursion problems you're going to see is just going to look like this. No, there are no calculators, Ryan. And you really shouldn't need them. Like pretty much everything is below 100, so I kind of expect you to be able to at least be able to do arithmetic with numbers under 100. So format of the test, I had said it before, but I assume you just came back on. It's 15 multiple choice questions, each with 5 potential answers. And then there's one free response question that's directly from the AP. And the AP question has 2 essentially sub-problems, but they're both related. I don't think either of the free response questions are too hard, but they're at least a little bit challenging to the point where they are suitable for an AP. But let me give you an idea of like what AP questions look like. So let me just find one real quick. Here's one about horses, but I really hate horses, so I'm not doing that one. Sorry if that's a controversial opinion. All right, so here's an example of like what an AP question looks like. Now, the actual AP question is actually significantly shorter than this, but I'm going to show you generally what it looks like. So it says so a lot of times what they'll do is they'll just give you a class, and you have to implement part of that class. So you'll read through the entire class, and most of the class, if you notice, is just comments. That's all it is. And 15, 1-5. And the gray parts are the methods or the instance fields. Now, in this case, it says to be implemented in part A, to be implemented in part B, which basically just means that you're going to be like filling those in later. So then they'll say, okay, here's part A, and then they'll ask the question for part A. They'll give give a bit more information about it. And they'll give you an example of like what what it could look like. So for example, in this case, this problem is called limit amplitude, and the idea is that you have sound waves that go up and down, and the like you want to make sure that none of the numbers are exceeding the limit in either the positive direction or the negative direction. Yeah, it's true. My dad did get a 13 out of 15. He impresses me a lot. But yeah, if he can do it, you can do it, because he doesn't really look at computer science stuff much at all. I think the last language he did was like C++ in the early 2000s. So, but this is generally what they'll look like. But let me just give you an idea of what. Let me give you an idea of like what the free response question. Yeah, he has coded before, that is true. But he doesn't know Java, so it's still kind of cool that he could still do all the Java questions. He got a couple of the class questions wrong. So for the free response, I'll say things you need to know. Each of the multiple choice questions is going to be worth about, I think I'm just going to make it, I think I was initially going to make it 4, but I didn't want your score to be so contingent on the free response. So instead, I'm making it so that each multiple choice question is 5 points, which multiplies out to 75% of your grade is the multiple choice. And then 25% of your grade is just going to be the free response. I thought that seemed fine, so I'm just going to do that. So for the free response, and if a lot of people do bad, I'm not opposed to curving it a little bit, but let's not expect us to have to do that. Ryan's asking the real questions here, jeez. But no, I wouldn't worry about it. Like, and I don't think you should bomb the free response question. I'm going to show you the things that you should know how to do. The obvious things would be to know how to fill in a method. So, and this is something we've I think yeah, I mean, I think you should know how to fill in a method by now. If you need some more practice with this, you can just do a coding bat type thing. That's also good just for like syntax stuff, but most of the test really isn't filling in methods. So if that just happens to be your one deficit in terms of the knowledge for Java, then I would just do that. But if you feel like you're mostly fine with it and it's just like little details that you get lost on, like I would just do something else, honestly. But yeah, you should know how to fill in a method. You should know how to generate a random number. And you should be able to generate anything I tell you. So maybe like generate a random integer between 1.5 and 11.5, generate a random number between -3 and 3. So you should feel totally comfortable with that. Besides that, you're going to have to iterate through an array and perform some sort of analysis. You're going to have to create an array and return the result. And that's actually pretty much all you're going to have to do. Now, the iterating through and performing some sort of analysis, the analysis is... Oh, yeah, I can do that. So if you... So if you want to generate a random number, you can just do something like... So for example, if you wanted to generate from -3 to 3, you would say int, like my num, I'm just making that number up. I mean, it's like one free response question, but every free response question on an AP has subparts to it. So then we can say math.random times, and then you multiply by whatever your, however much you want the range to be. In this case, we have 7 numbers that we want, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, so that's 7. And then you're going to subtract by 3. And if you do that, you're actually just going to always generate a number that's... You're always going to generate a number from -3 to 3, which is kind of neat. And then if you want to do something like 1 to 100, so that's going to be a total of 100 numbers, but then you're going to add 1 to it. And then I'll just do one more, just for the sake of, I don't know. So if you want to do 5 to 25, we would say 25 to 5 is going to have 20 numbers in it. No, 21. Yeah, 21. And then, so we're gonna add 5 there. Yeah, that's right, 21. 21 numbers, okay. So what do you mean by outputs of stuff? Can you give me an example of what you mean by outputs? The way you know to, knowing what to add at the end is actually kind of confusing, but basically it's, what I can tell you is you're not going to have to do anything negative, which makes it a lot easier in my opinion. you basically multiply by however many numbers you want to have, and then you're basically going to add, because math.random by itself is just going to have its lowest value be 0. So generally, if you notice something I'm doing is I'm always just the last number. Like, I'm subtracting 3 here because our first number in our range is -3. I'm adding 1 here because our first number in our range is 1, and I'm adding 5 here because our first number in our range is 5. So that's probably a good way of going about doing it. So I would recommend just looking at what the smallest number is and then just going by that. Oh, typo up here. Okay. So does anybody else have any questions about this? I don't think I want to go over too much else just besides this. I want to see how much you're able to do. If nobody's really able to do the free response question adequately, then, or most people aren't able to do a free response question adequately, then I just won't count it as seriously. Syntax it depends on the syntax. So let me show you what you get. So this is what you get for the test. This is the quick reference. I would definitely recommend everybody does the free response. That's usually not a good methodology because there's always going to be at least one person that does the free response. But you get this quick reference. And Jason, this wasn't actually the question you were asking, so I'm not sure why I brought this up, but I was going to bring this up anyway. But this is what you have available. So you're going to have a printout of this. This is basically just different things that might be useful. Now, as far as syntax goes, like if you say array.size instead of array.length, I'm not going to take off points for that because it still communicates the idea. If you forget a lot of semicolons, then that would probably require me to take off more points. But if you get the point across, I'm really looking more for the logic of it. Putting down random code might just give you like 10% pity points or something like that, but I would recommend just putting down actual code instead that does the method. So as far as filling in methods goes, let me just try to think of a... Let me do the limit amplitude method from before. So like that one, it gets in a... So that was just this is just an example of one of the free response questions. Essentially, you get an array of ints, which are all amplitude values, passed to you as an array. And then you get something called int limit. And basically what you want to make sure is that none of the amplitudes exceed any of the individual amplitudes. Or I'm sorry, none of the amplitudes exceed the limit. And you also want to make sure that any of the negative amplitudes are not lower than limit. So for that one, this one's fairly simple. You just go through and it's just the same as anything else. I'll make this more interesting. I'll make it return an int, and I'll say returns the number of amplitudes changed. That just makes the question a bit less trivial than it is right now. So anytime you're returning the number of something, you start off just by saying like Yeah, you just have a counting variable there. So we'll say for index gets 0 while index is less than amplitudes dot length index plus plus, and then we can say something like if amplitudes index is greater than limit, then amplitudes index equals limit. And then if amplitudes index is less than limit, then amplitudes index now equals limit. One sec. And then also if you make any changes, I guess we'll have to use curly braces then. We'll just say limits changed plus plus. And that'll pretty much be it, and then we just have to return limits changed at the end. Okay, so that should be good. Let me just go through some questions. Yeah, so you don't need to know how to write the classes, you just need to know how to interpret them. So there are going to be 3 questions where you have to read through a class and then just make interpretations based on that. I already know, considering I wrote the problem, I already wrote the test, I already know what kind of problems are going to be on there. I'm kind of specifically showing you things that will be helpful to you. I'm not showing you anything that you will find superfluous. And the stream saves to my channel automatically, so you should be able to watch it later anyway. All right, so any other questions? I'm going to try to figure out something else I can show you that'll actually be like worth your time. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna look over right now. Let's see. I mean, there are a lot of questions on arrays. Stuff with like for loops are there. One of the questions is actually just evaluating an expression. Don't worry about array lists. I don't have any array lists on the test, so I'm not going to even bother going over them. Really, I probably should have put array lists on the test, but I didn't, so whatever. Yeah, I can do double for loops, but the so just make sure that you know how to evaluate expressions. So I'm just going to quickly put this on there because people still get this wrong, strangely enough. No, there are no 2D arrays, so you'll be good with that too. But really, I don't think this test is actually particularly difficult. Thank you. Those aren't curtains, though. Those are actually just blinds, but thank you anyway. So yeah, there's one on evaluating expressions, and then there's also one on evaluating Boolean expressions. Yeah, I did an MTV Cribs, so sorry if you missed that. Yeah. I didn't really do a house tour. I really just like did as much as I can while sitting down. So if you want to evaluate Boolean expressions, remember that the order is parentheses, not, and then or. So you just do them in that order. So the mnemonic device that I've used is Paul Newman ate Oreos, and if you can remember that, it's basically parentheses, not and or. So as long as you can do that and you know what and or and not is, then you should be good to go. Yeah, it just turns out that Paul Newman had the initials PN, which I needed. So if you have another recommendation of any other PN names, I'm fine with using that as a mnemonic device in the future. There will be no Python test, or there will be no Python in this test. Paul Newman did not drink. I mean, ew. I guess you can drink salad dressing. I don't really care. No judgments here. It just sounds disgusting. So as far as assignment operators go, if you just do like this, all right, so as far as assignment operators go, basically this is just saying int x equals 30, or int x gets 30. And it's just saying that we're going to assign a value of 30 to x. And then we're going to subtract 25 from x. So now x is going to be 5. So here it's 5. And then we multiply whatever x currently is by 3, so now x is 15. And then we're going to add whatever x currently is, 17. So yeah, those are assignment operators. My drums are downstairs. Maybe another time I can do some drums. Yeah, I don't even have any drum stuff up here, but if you want to see. This is like the third cymbal I've cracked in the past 2 months. So this is a result of my drum playing. So if you want to, if you were at all, if there was any interest in that, yeah, I break cymbals a lot. Anyway. All right, guys, on task live stream. Let's do it. So let me think of anything else that I think would even be useful. I think at this point, there aren't any particular topics that I even think we really need to go over, because I think you're all mostly prepared for the test. The people in this chat were also people that were at the review session today, so I'm pretty confident that people will be able to just do everything they need to. So if you have any particular questions, I can go ahead and answer them now. Well, I mean, I was probably going to play Overwatch anyway, but can I get an A for reviewing? No, but you have to know that I appreciate the effort that you're putting in, Haley, so that's pretty awesome too. Yeah, so, oh yeah, for loops. Let's do for loops. So so for loops, let's take a look at, so a question that you might get on the test would look something like this. So a question would be something like, what is the output of this nested for loop? So for this one, since x starts at 1, so x starts at 1, you go into the inner for loop, and inside the inner for loop, the values will always reset. So you start y at 1, and it says y is less than or equal to x. You print out a star. And then you increase y by 1. But since y is 2 now, it's greater than 1, which is what x is. So we just exit this inner for loop, and we go to the system.println, which will move the cursor to the next line. Now you go ahead and, so now x plus plus, so now x is equal to 2. 2 is still less than or equal to 5. So now it's y is back to 1. So we're going to print out a star twice, because y is less than or equal to x here when it's 1 and when it's 2. So we'll print out 2 of those. And then we go to the system.println, so it goes to the new line. And you just do it again. So this time it's going to print, so it's x is 3, there's going to be 3 stars. And then x is 4, so we're going to print out 4 stars. And x is 5, so we're going to print out 5 stars, and then we're done. So I can't really show you what I'm typing without it being like kind of weird looking, but my way of doing this, I actually I don't know how much help I would be on your Bible project, but you know, give it a shot, I guess. I don't know. So basically, yeah, it just. So yeah, any other questions that you'd like me to go over besides your Bible project? What about the whys? What's your question about the whys? Y is just a separate variable. In this case, like, here, I'll give you an example of an easier one. This is one I think you'll actually see on the test. Does anybody have any idea what this might print out? Yes, this will actually print out 25 stars. Essentially, this is just going to print out 5 rows of this. Because x starts at 1, goes up to 5, and then with each time the inner for loop runs, the inner for loop gets entered 5 times. And then the inner for loop runs itself 5 times. So 5 times 5, 25. So it's going to print out 5 rows of 5. I admire your enthusiasm, Brady, but I don't think you actually need more of a challenge right at this very moment, just because I really didn't make the test that hard. This is probably one of my easier tests that I've given. The inner for loop is this. We could write this like here. I could just say this is the outer for loop, and then this is the inner for loop. Why is Ben Salzberg here? All right, this chat, speaking of toxic, this chat is starting to get a little toxic. So does anybody have any questions about what we're doing? Ben Salzberg is a senior, but I sort of have the impression that this is actually Eli. It might actually just be Ben, though. Yeah, I mean, the outer for loop just, it's going to run however many times it's set to run. So if you see int x equals 1, x is less than or equal to 5, no, I hate Counter-Strike, and also I'm banned from that game. And the it just increases x by 1 with each iteration of the for loop. And the so that's just going to run 5 times, but the inner for loop, which is this, always essentially gets reset. So the initial value that you start with always gets reset. Yeah, I wrote hacks for Counter-Strike. I wouldn't do that if I were you. They're really good at catching them, so. So I can't play Counter-Strike on that account anymore, but wasn't really a huge fan of that game anyway, so it's fine. I think my stream just lagged. Hold on a second. Okay, it looks fine now. Alright, so I'm trying to think of like, here, let me edit this a little bit. Oh, it did lag. Okay. So can anybody like tell me what they think the output of this will look like? Any ideas? No, Jason. It's not 1 star. Yeah, it's actually just going to print out this, like 2 rows of 3. Yeah, you got it, Jason. So the so it's going to print out 6 stars on 2 different lines. So essentially, x starts at 1, and then y always starts at 1. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. So it's going to print out 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. And then it's going to, we do system.println, so it's going to go to the next line. And then so x is equal to 2 now, but y goes back to 1. And now we have 1, 2, 3, like that. As far as I know, it's not as far as I know. I actually know this for a fact. There's only one question involving like these kind of for loops, so I wouldn't stress too hard about them. But if you have any more questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. I did not know there was a Nutella cafe in Chicago. All right, I'm gonna get some water. I'll come back and see if there are any questions. And then, if there's not, yeah, sure, I'll play Overwatch. You get the 3 stars on one line just from the inner for loop here. And so, because it counts from 1 to 3. Yeah, because y is less than or equal to 3 and you start at 1, so it's going to count 1, 2, 3, and that's it. That's how you get 3 stars on one line. It is kind of true that you just kind of multiply the top by the bottom. Something that might help you is just going into a programming environment and just trying these out. I hacked my faucet by turning it off or turning it on to allow the water to come through a spout, and then off again because I didn't want any more water in my cup. But so in that sense, I hacked it. I'm not sure if that's really what you're referring to, though. No. As an alternative, I can also just like get on it a little bit too and just answer some more questions if you come up with more questions. The test is very straightforward, though. It's nothing that you haven't seen before. It's nothing tricky. And I think you should do fine on it. I'm not too worried about how y'all are gonna do on it. All right, so I'll just assume that everybody's probably good now. If not, just like type some questions in the chat box, and I'll make sure that I do it. Oh yeah, here are some lights. So those are just some LED lights I have set up right now around my computer. The rest of my LED lights aren't really turned on anymore, so. Haley, I just wouldn't be worried about it. I mean, I think just study the notes that you have. Studying the notes that you have, that's really where I got all the questions from. So it's not like, can you do the question and we get like print something with ints and stuff? Could you re-ask your question, Brady? I'm not really able to parse that. Right, maybe I'm just not interpreting it right. Yeah, tell me what you mean. My two mains right now are Soldier 76 and Diva. I feel like I have to kick Josh out of the channel just for being odd. It's not even like trolling, it's just weird. No, I hate Widowmaker. I don't play snipers. Oh yeah, sure. So if it's something like just like outputting all multiples of 7, from like 1 to 1 million, it would just be like so this is literally all you have to do. To print out all multiples of 7. So Haley just asked the question. The Widowmaker question is easier. I believe that's the assumption, Josh, in that she is making widows. Kind of macabre, really, if you think about it. I never really thought about it like that. I just know it by the name. So given two arrays of ints, A and B, return true if they have the same first element or they have the same last element. Both arrays will be length 1 or more. Oh, definitely not McCree. McCree's really bad right now. He's pretty low tier. Okay, so it's called common end, so it's going to return true or false. So it's going to be public static boolean common end, and then it's going to be two arrays of ints, A and B. And it says to return true if they have the same first element or they have the same last element. That one's easy. So you can just say return A0 equals B0, or A dot length minus 1 equals B dot length minus 1. So that would be an answer to your question. So that's common end. So any other pressing questions at the moment? Don't worry, Haley, you won't need to know how to do that question. All right, so yeah, I know it's. She can ask as many questions as she wants. No, you don't need to know how to write recursive functions. You only need to know how to read them. That particular recursive question is a little bit trickier and conceptual than anything that you'll ever see on the AP exam, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right, don't worry. I just put Jason in timeout for being obnoxious. Doing stuff on the internet's so much better than doing it in a classroom environment. Please don't order a pizza to my house. Okay, as far as reading recursion goes, yeah, send pizza at Haley's house. She'll probably appreciate it more than I will. All right, so I'm just gonna do this one. Oh. Yeah, Haley, this question isn't even like, this isn't actually even factorial, so, or this isn't even actually a recursive question. Oh, that's my neighbor. Don't worry about him. He's all right. Don't worry about him. I'll show you how to do a factorial, though. I mean, just for the sake of it. Hello, Sammy. Jason, I only timed you out for 5 minutes. I mostly just thought it was funny. So yeah, I mean that's a yeah, Haley. The question that you put up, or the method that you put up, wasn't actually recursive in any way. It was a iterative function. So I'm not gonna bother. Um, yeah, lots of things in the world to be confused about. I'll say I'll do one more because I'm starting. I'll get one more question, and then I'll probably be on later too. So like, don't if you still have questions, just like put something in there. They only give you the answers for the first few questions in each section, Ryan. Yeah, conditional statement, sure. So the yeah, I think I can untime you out. Oh, I guess I can't. I think you're on time though. It was only supposed to be for. It's only for 5 minutes. So I mean, this would be an example of just like a conditional one. So like essentially, you're given a grade in conditionals, and then it just returns the corresponding letter grade. All right, cool. So, yeah, I was just watching somebody. One of my old students just sent me the video of me giving my MTV Cribs tour. Yeah, I was just on MTV just now. I just did Cribs. It was really cool. Anyway, so I've completely lost my attention span, so I think I'm just going to play Overwatch now. So just a warning, my rating's really bad now because last season I totally tanked it by by being really distracted every time I played ranked. So right now I'm playing really horrible ranked games, so they're actually pretty funny. Whoa, double experience weekend. Cool. So let's see how this goes. And by the way, if you have any other pressing computer science questions, I'm still happy to answer them. I'm not a very toxic player, Ryan. So anyway, yeah, if you're
now arriving at Enos.
So we'll see how this goes.
Prepare to attack.
And like I said, my rating's really bad right now. So because I kept like trying to like play 2 games at the same time and do stupid crap like that last season. So it got a little stupid. But yeah, let's play Overwatch. I might do some comp sci later, but some people seem to like the idea of me playing Overwatch instead. At the moment, yes, actually. I was plat a couple seasons ago, and then I got down to bronze, so that generally happens.
Knock me down and I'll keep getting back up.
I think well, I don't know. We actually have 2 tanks. I was going to say I might need to play a tech. I'm not sure we have a Bastion. Bastion seems really bad on this map.
Come here and get stabilized. Hatched up.
Oh jeez, this is not going well.
No rest for the weary. Anyone need some healing? I've got you in my sight.
Oh, this is really bad. I'm trying to get the Pharaoh, Ryan.
No rest for the weary.
Mercy's good. You got me, Josh. I have no idea who your teacher's going to be.
I don't quit till the fight's done.
Alright, well that was 3 ults. Well. That didn't work.
Best round lost.
Oh, I think our Orisa is also AFK. I just noticed that. I'm not promoting guns and violence. This is very cartoony violence.
0 to 1. I'm not checking in.
Winston reporting.
Stay 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
Mirror gets stabilized. I don't quit till the fight's done.
Oh, I have no idea who's watching this. Brady. I don't like Club Penguin that much, so probably not.
Much power.
Oh, that's bad. I have a GTX 960 and then a i7 as a processor. It's a I can't remember what the clock speed is.
Done. Good choice. I've got you in my sights.
Round 2 lost.
Oh, this is not going well.
Score 0 to 2.
Oh yeah, we only have one tank. I'll just go do that.
Let's shoot for a new high score.
5, 4, 3,
My nickname is Volandi because
capture the objective.
Right, yeah, that's the explanation.
Rally power, forward shield. Get through this.
My ultimate is charging.
I am taking it.
Did someone call for
Weapons optimized.
Move up. Hello.
Casting a spell on you.
Greetings.
I am Mother Rock. Rally power, forward barrier.
You have my thanks. Round 3, 1. Score 1 to 2.
Alright, so that round went a little bit better than the previous 2 rounds, so maybe I'll just stick with D.Va. It seems to be working better. Our team comp is a little wacky. Well, actually, no, our team comp got better when we actually got a real healer, like Mercy. I really don't like having Hanzos at all on my team, though, but I guess they have a Hanzo, so it kind of balances out. Feels like you just have to be so good at Hanzo.
5, 4, 3,
I guess I could be doing a lot better, too, honestly.
capture the objective.
No, I do not have merch, Brady.
Weapons systems overloaded.
Ah, no! That was too bad. Oh, he got me, yeah. Cool.
I'm not a good
My ultimate is charging.
No, I know you're here.
My sons never die.
All systems check out.
Capturing this is very annoying. Well, that's sad. Hi.
You're doing your thing.
I was now. I'm just playing Overwatch.
Oh, good.